everybody joining me as we're continuing previewing the divisions in the National Football League. We're at the AFC South, and there's one guy I thought of when it comes to the AFC South, and that is Allan Bell for CBS Sportsline. Allan, I do appreciate you taking time to come on the show today.
Oh, of course, man. Appreciate you having me on, buddy.
Oh yeah, as I said, I said when I got the AFC South, I said I got to get Allan. He's right there in Nashville where the Titans are at. He knows this league anyways from top to bottom. He's my guy, one of my guys when it comes to NFL. So, and this is an interesting division when you look at it from top to bottom too. It's going to be a lot of fun with the AFC South, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a lot of fun this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun moving forward. Like I think that you've got a lot of change that's going on. Some that could be good in Jacksonville, some in Houston that could be a little wild. But yeah, I mean, it's a division that in like the popularity of like across the NFL, like. You think the NFC East or it doesn't get that much pub nationally, but it's always a fun race every single year.
Yeah, they don't get quite as many Sunday night games as the NFC East does. On occasion.
Yeah, no kidding, and rightly so. Like nothing, like the NFC East is the NFC East. Like you have bona fide brands that have been around the NFL for so long. Like I certainly understand that. I'm not saying that that the AFC South should be, hammering in, on everything. But it's a better division than it gets credit for,
Yeah, it is. And, talking about, leading with the Texans. I mean, they were 4-12 last year. Of course, Deshaun Watson stuff over the summer. Bill O'Brien no longer there as the head coach. But, you look at Deshaun Watson's numbers from last year, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, those are MVP numbers. I mean, this team is in rebuild mode. I mean, of course, I'm just going to throw out if Deshaun Watson is the quarterback day one. Now I know there's still questions around, his status. I'll just leave it at that. What are your thoughts on the Texans going into this year?
Well, I mean, Deshaun Watson, he'll never play for that team again. And even before all the legal situation was going on, you remember?
Yeah,
he was blasting the organization like he wanted out, right? So even if all this legal stuff wraps up, which it's not going to anytime soon. Remember, the court systems do not work fast, right? Mm. So even beyond that, he's not coming back. Like, I mean, he's already made his voice known, right? So, I mean, that's a whole other podcast, like Deshaun.
Yeah.
Right now. So, we'll move on from that. But yeah, I mean, the Texans, you said rebuild mode, and that's correct. And I was trying to think of a word that was even more strong than rebuild because it's like start over mode, right? Yeah. Like it's like them almost being an expansion team once again. Like it's not at that level, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like their quarterback is gone. Their stars are gone. Like everyone that you knew about this team is gone. They've been traded. They've been, whatever. So, it's going to be tough. There's a good chance that they're the worst team in the league. And I hate it for him because I hate it for the brand new head coach because this guy has worked forever in the NFL to get this opportunity. And it is arguably the worst opportunity that anyone can have. I mean, you just don't have much of a shot. You know what I mean? So it's going to be tough for him. It's not going to be a pretty year in Houston.
Yeah, David Culley, you got to feel bad for him. Like I said, 65 years old. You think, okay, I get hired by the Texans. I have Deshaun Watson. I have a franchise quarterback. Yes, we got to rebuild things around him. But, that is a great building block when you've got that quarterback. And then he wants out the legal stuff. J.J. Watt is gone, like you said. All these players we've known. I mean, it's just a bad situation for him. I feel bad for him, really. I mean, he finally gets a shot, then this happens.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's really, really tough. But, he'll make the most of it. And, we'll see. I mean, you could turn teams around. Like, the NFL, that old saying, like, not for long, it always, talks about the negative portion, of, we're doing great now. Well, not for long, like things can change. Well, it goes the opposite way too, man. Like, you could rebuild a team a lot quicker these days than it used to take. So you can make a lot of good decisions. And I still question, people above him too. Like their front office, I've got a lot of questions about the same as I do on the field. So, not to harp on that too terribly much, but he has his work absolutely cut out for him.
Yeah, but it's, the life in NFL, and I know they'll be bringing in Tyrod Taylor. I mean, obviously they kind of, like you said, did think if the quarterback be there, at least you're bringing in a guy with some experience there with them,
and a good guy too. Like, that's a good guy. That's a good cornerstone guy to have.
You move on to Indianapolis Colts. Of course, this team last year, Phillip Rivers. I mean, I guess the good thing with them, they went 11-5 last year. Lost Buffalo in the playoffs, but at least now I guess they're hoping Carson Wentz can kind of end the carousel they've had there at quarterback here lately. And you look at Frank Reich's the head coach. Of course, Carson Wentz, some of his best years in Philadelphia was with Frank Reich. So I guess I just want to lead off with him when you kind of start the quarterback again. Do you think Frank Reich can fix what happened to Carson Wentz?
Let's define the word fix, right? Like, I think this is a top 3 question in the NFL this year is what do we get out of Carson Wentz? Because let's look at what he has. He has arguably the most stable franchise in the NFL. Chris Ballard is a tremendous GM. Frank Reich is a heck of a head coach. Wentz is going into an offense that he knows from Philly. You've got an outstanding team offensively. You've got an outstanding team defensively. They're young, and in a good way young. This team is good. Like, this team is as, structurally sound as you can get. So when we say the word fix, like, Carson doesn't have to do a ton, but he can't screw it up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he can't go Jameis Winston, of just mistakes and intercept. Like, I think that the Colts can succeed if they can simplify what Carson Wentz needs to do, which Frank Reich can absolutely do that. Mm-hmm. Cut down mistakes and give the kid a chance to have some confidence again. I think that that's a big part of it. If they can do that, Colts can be as good as they want to be.
Hey, look, the Colts have something the Eagles didn't have. That's a good offensive line. And he got sacked 50 times in 12 games last year. I mean, that's going to mess up any quarterback's confidence and thought process.
It was horrible. And that's why, now don't get me wrong, I was negative on Carson Wentz on a lot of things that he did. A lot of it was on him. But a lot of it was on the Eagles as well. Like, there's a reason why Wentz is gone. A head coach who has a statue out front of the stadium is gone, right? Like, there were all kinds of issues. So it's like, it's not all on Wentz. You know what I mean? I think that is what Frank Reich's biggest job is going to be this year is how do we simplify it for Carson? How do we let him get his feet wet? And he's going to be thrown to the fire, and he understands that. This is the NFL and a team that is going to compete for a division, compete for playoffs, compete for a Super Bowl, arguably, right? So It's not, they can't. There's no time to baby him, but they can find ways to maximize his talent and minimize the risk opportunity, if that makes sense.
And look, I mean, this team was a few plays away. If you go back and look at that wild card game against the Bills, they were a few plays away from winning that game. I mean, you can argue if you look back, if people can remember, they in some phase of that game outplayed Buffalo. Just they missed opportunities with Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers didn't get enough credit for how well he played last year. And look, I understand the arm was gone. It looked like a shot put at times. It did. Like, I'm not saying that the guy was the MVP, but he went into an offense that he understood, right? Mm-hmm. And Wentz has that same opportunity, and that's why I think that if they can find that right path of using Wentz just enough but not too much, it'd be pretty good.
Yeah, look, you got Jonathan Taylor, rookie year last year, over 1,000 yards, had a tremendous year. You got Marlon Mack there. I mean, you've got stuff around you to set yourself up for good stuff. They
have arguably everything. I'm not saying that they're the best team in the league. I'm just saying that they have arguably everything that you would need to compete to win the division.
Yeah, and then when you look at on that defense side, I think they were 8th in the league last year. You got DeForest, Buckner there on the defensive front. I mean, like I said, you got everything there on that side of the ball as well. When you have the 8th ranked defense, they have a lot of those guys coming back. It's one of the things, like I said, I know I keep repeating it with Carson Wentz, but, good situation, do take care of the ball. I mean, I think that's a big thing. I mean, he just had it's not the interceptions he did throw. There were some boneheaded interceptions I think he threw.
Oh, God, yeah. It wasn't all on the Eagles. A lot of it was on him, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was that's an honest 50-50. It was just a disaster from everyone. But yeah, if they can just find that clear window of, letting him, maximize what he can do. Yeah, maybe all right.
Yeah, and kind of close up. We do remember this is the guy that was, if he hadn't got hurt, 2017, the year they won the Super Bowl, and Nick Foles came in and won everybody over. He was the leading candidate for MVP that year. Before he gets hurt against the Rams, Game 13, he was someone we were talking about as an MVP. So kind of put a bow on the Colts thing there. We know what he can be. I mean, there's I think maybe not. He may not get back to that level, but there's an in between somewhere where he's just a really solid top 15 quarterback.
Yep, and that's exactly what Frank Reich's got to find. That right there.
So we may hurt some feelings on this one. I may hurt some feelings with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not going to get to who we will talk about that is on this roster that I don't agree being on this roster in a moment. But Jacksonville, 1-15 last year. Urban Meyer's coming in. We know what the conversation, the success rate of college to pro has been, and especially a guy who's never really hasn't coached in the NFL. But you got Trevor Lawrence, everything there. I mean, this team, that they're rebuilding too. And it's kind of funny talking about 2017. It's amazing. This team just 3 years ago was almost in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then just like you said, how quickly you can go up, how quickly you can come down. We saw that with Jacksonville. What has been your take so far with what Urban Meyer is trying to rebuild there culture-wise and everything there in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Whether someone loves or hates Urban Meyer, which is fair.
Yeah.
The dude wins everywhere he goes. I mean, he's an unbelievable football coach. The Jaguars will be better off with him, if that makes sense. This year might not be pretty at all, right? Mm-hmm. But he knows talent. He understands the game. He understands the team. Yes, you're right. It's not college. You can't go out and get 30 5-star guys, right? Like it doesn't operate that way. But I'll give Urban Meyer the benefit of the doubt. He's earned it. Like the guy wins. So I'm certainly not gonna shoot at his feet before the guy gets started. Because there's a good chance he proves me wrong. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'll definitely give Urban Meyer the benefit of the doubt. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a couple of years, but having Trevor Lawrence down there, and if he is who we think that he's going to be, he not only buys you time, but he speeds up time, right? Mm-hmm. Like he can make your team a lot better than what you probably are. So at least he has that, and I mean, he can. Like the guy can work around quarterbacks. He can work around offense. He can make teams play at a higher level than maybe that they really are. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of my opinion. Like other than that, we're gonna have to wait and see because there's so many question marks.
Yeah.
What does Urban look like in the NFL? What does his offense look like in the NFL? What does Trev like? We don't know. The two biggest parts of this team are the head coach and the quarterback, and neither of them have been in the NFL. So, it's impossible to make any projections. But I'll say that, rookie QBs in the NFL, especially number one overall picks, I think they're only like 2 or 3 that even won 7 games, right? Like I think it's like Andrew Luck, Bradford, and Baker. So temper your expectations. If they get to 6 wins, probably all right. If they got to 7 wins, that'd be an amazing season in Jacksonville. Yeah. So, temper your expectations of what it's going to be. It's going to take time. But, yeah, again, not to chew my food 3 or 4 times. Urban Meyer's a good coach, man. Like, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, no hot takes from me. I'm kind of excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, and I'm interested with him. He's not used to losing games. You know, of course, in NFL, you're going to lose. You're going to lose games. And look, Trevor Lawrence kind of the same way. I mean, 34-2 as a quarter. You know, I want to see how Urban Meyer does. Maybe when the team does go through some struggles. You know, because he's not used to that. He's not used to that at the college level. How does he adjust? You know, at those moments. You know, when they are not playing well, which we pretty much. You know, you got to think that's going to happen year one in Jacksonville. Because, like I said, there's a lot of things this franchise needs to put around Trevor Lawrence to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take time. But, you know, Urban's a smart guy as well.
Yeah, he is.
He understands it. Like, there's nothing, like, internally that I'm concerned about. Like, the NFL is about talent. It's about putting talent on the field. And it takes time to do it. And, you know, I feel that he has his hands on pretty much everything that he wants with that organization, you know, kind of a de facto GM, so to say. So, you know, he'll have every opportunity to really have every single shot that he wants, right? Like, I don't think that, you know, the ownership, the con are going to tell him no. Like, if Urban says, I want to do this, I think it's, that's why we hired you. Like, do what you do. So, yeah, I'm excited to see it, man. It might take, you know, a couple of years. But I also ask this question. How long will he be there? And I'm not saying that negatively. I'm not saying it as, like, you know, a hot take type thing. I think it's a fair question. You know, we've seen the health issues that he's gone through, and I hate that for him because I think it's taken away, you know, one of the, you know, most successful coaches that we've seen, you know, in the last 20 years, right? And who knows, man? Like, that's my only answer, is that there's so many questions, but I'm excited to watch it play out, because when you have names like that, like, it just makes it that much more exciting.
But he does have the next great tight end in Tim Tebow, so we got to remember that.
You know, I'll say this. You know, everybody had, like, super hot takes about Tebow, and, you know, is he going to, you know, let's put Trevor Lawrence on the hot seat, like dumb stuff like that. I see exactly why he brought Tim in, and it makes sense to me. He has a guy who, one, you know, he doesn't need Tim to play a lot, right? Like, he could play Tim 6 snaps in a game max. Like, but Tim understands everything that he's trying to do.
Yeah.
So you have a guy, essentially you have two quarterbacks on the field, right? You know, Tim can see exactly what the Jags want to do, and he can help teach that to Trevor and everyone else of, you know, kind of the why behind what we're doing, XYZ, you know, in terms of plays. And then 2, I mean, Tebow's not a bad guy to have in the locker room, right? Like, you know, when Tebow gets somewhere, you never hear players, like, hate him. You know what I mean? Like, the guy is certainly, like, polarizing in terms of his name, of how popular he is, but you don't hear guys like rag on. Like, he seems like a pretty good teammate. You know what I mean? So we'll see, man.
So moving over to the Titans, and this team got a little bit of a big acquisition a few weeks ago in Julio Jones, partnered with A.J. Brown at receiver, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. What are your expectations coming this year when you look at that offense? I mean, they've got, on paper, they've got plenty of playmakers out there.
Yeah, they do. I think if you look at the Titans, the 2 biggest questions are going to be, one, how are you going to fix that defense? Because that second, especially third down defense, was historically one of the worst in NFL history. And 2, you know, what are you doing to get to the quarterback, right? Like, it didn't work out with Jadeveon Clowney. You've got a stud, you know, in Simmons. And you know, they made some you know, some pickups in the offseason. But I think that is number 1. And then 2 is, what does this offense look like, right? We saw, obviously, what Derrick Henry did last year, going for 2,000 yards without his left and right tackle, by the way. Like, that's how good that this guy is, you know. But I could see where you try to, I'm not going to say limit carries to the guy, because that's not, you know, a Mike Vrabel coach team. Like, we're going to play tough. And I say we, like, if I'm speaking as him, like, that, whatever the hell that they have to do to win, they're going to do it. If it takes Derrick Henry having 281 carries in a game, like, get ready, Derrick. You're having 281 carries in a game, right? So, But I'm interested to see, kind of how the ball distribution goes, how Julio fits in this offense. I think he'll fit fine. As soon as he got here to Nashville, he's been a consummate professional. He immediately was ready to practice, ready to go, and did. And, it wasn't a big spectacle. He didn't have, a ton of, hoopla and flair going around. He went to work. Like, that's who the guy is. And I think that he fits everything that this locker room is about. You have professionals that are in there that want to win. Derrick Henry is very similar. You don't hear much out of him, right? But the guys, when your best players are your hardest workers, like, you're generally in a really good spot. And he comes into that. Ryan Tannehill's the exact same way. Obviously, A.J. Brown is going to be a stud. So I'm excited to see it. The other interesting part is that you look at this Titans team, they've got a new defensive coordinator who was there last year, but he wasn't technically the DC. Mike Vrabel was. And you have a new offensive coordinator in Todd Downing, right? Because Arthur Smith's now in Atlanta. So there's a lot of change to a team that won the division last year, has been in the playoffs the last 2 years. 2 years ago was in the AFC Championship. So you have a lot of change that are big changes, but you have talent at the exact right positions, at least offensively, to battle that. Like, I don't think that you see a large change in what the Titans do. I think, it's just how, is the ball distribution, between all of that. You don't have your tight ends either, right? Like, Jonnu Smith is in New England now. So you got Anthony Ferguson, who's been there. But yeah, I mean, there's some changes, but this team should be pretty good. This is a 9, 10, 11 win team, and them and the Colts are going to compete for the division.
Yeah, that's I guess I'm gonna go with next, and and it's been with Henry. He's a guy you can't limit carries, because I feel like he's the guy. The more carries he gets, the better he gets. It's not like it's not the other way around.
Yeah, he's like, dude, give him to me. Like, yeah, I agree.
It's almost like if I was a defense, I want to see him in the first and second quarter, but I do not want to see him in the fourth quarter.
No, it's bad news.
Yeah, for a lot of people. So when you look at this division, 1 through 4, I mean, I kind of feel like I know who 1 and 2 are, and 3 and 4. The options there. How do you see this division? As we sit here in July, with this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here in Nashville, so with my answer, I don't want anybody to think like it's home cooking or anything like that. But I think the Titans are a better team. I think they've got a better quarterback. I think they've got a better running back. I think they've got, probably not a better head coach in terms of, I don't know, overall, like, super football, coaching intelligence. I guess that's a weird thing to say. But I think Mike Vrabel for this team is the perfect coach. And he's not dumb. Like, we saw, what he's done, against Belichick, using his own rules against him. Like, Vrabel's
I loved it. Yeah,
Vrabel's a brilliant guy. Like, I'm not saying that the guy's dumb by any means. Like, he's super brilliant. But I think he's the perfect coach for this team. So I'm going to put the Titans first. I'll put the Colts obviously second. And we're talking like neck and neck, right? Like, I think these two teams are very similar. The Jaguars third, and the Texans fourth. And honestly, like, the poor Texans might be the worst team in the league. Like, it could be that bad of a year, just because you're just starting over everywhere. Just everywhere, you're just completely starting over.
Yeah. Okay, real quick before I let you, when we get out of here, what's a weird record you want to see with the 17 games?
What do you mean?
What is like the weirdest sounding record? I think 5 and 12.
Oh, okay. 12. Like, okay, I got you.
Like the weirdest number combination, because that's one thing I'm going to have to get used to. I mean, 8 and 9 is going to be bad. I hate it for anybody that goes 8 and 9.
Yeah, 8 and 9 is going to be weird.
That would have been a Jeff Fisher record.
7 and 10 is weird, because 7 wins in your head is not like, it's not bad for a team that's trying to come up.
Yeah,
but you have 10 losses.
Yeah,
it's going to be, it's odd. What does 10 and 7 look like? Like, that sounds great. That might be wild card at best. I don't know. That's a good question, man.
9 and 8.
Yeah. 1 and 16 is going to sound horrible if somebody does that. Like, that's just so many losses. Yeah, I haven't heard that question. That's a good one, dude. I think 7 and 10 or 8 and 9. Like, you win 8 games and he had a losing season. Like it's weird, you know.
That would have been Jeff Fisher if he was still coaching in the league.
Yeah.
So that would probably been his record. But anyways, I'll be interested to see at the end of the year, if what just looks weird to me looking in the standings. But anyways, it's going to be a fun year, and this division's going to be fun, Allan. And it's a fun always having you come on the show. And if the listeners want to follow you online, listeners and viewers want to follow you online, where can they find you and all the work you're doing at CBS Sportsline?
Yeah, definitely. So you can obviously find me on Twitter at Allan Bell 247. The Early Edge podcast on Sportsline, A to Z Sports Picks on the A to Z Sports platform. You can find me all over CBS Sports HQ, CBSSports.com, Sportsline.com. Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, man, you're all over the place, and I appreciate you taking the time coming on my show. It's always good to have you on. I know we've been doing conversating about NFL for several years. I always appreciate you taking the time, and look forward to talking again sometime down the road.
Hey, you too, buddy. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.